Today, we're asking a pretty wild question. How exactly did a relatively small Sumerian settlement evolve into the world's very first true military superpower? We're diving deep into the Assyrian Empire. It's a massive tale of immense ambition, honestly terrifying military innovation, and a really dramatic rise and fall that completely shaped the ancient world. Let's get right into it.
To put this in perspective, the Assyrians literally created the largest empire the world had ever seen up to that point. The sheer scale of their territorial dominance, completely unprecedented. I mean, their neighbors didn't just respect them, they were absolutely terrified of them. The fury of Assyria was, without a doubt, the terror of their age.
And here's why they were so feared. They weren't just winning standard battles in open fields. No, they were the very first true masters of siege warfare. Supported by history's first professional standing army, which is a huge deal on its own, they had the logistical chops and the engineering to just grind massive enemy walls into dust. And perhaps even more devastating, they developed the chilling capability to displace massive, entire populations at a whim just to serve the empire's needs. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll trace their origins, see how they survived the Bronze Age collapse, look at their war machine, their big administrative reforms, their absolute peak of power, and then that sudden, fiery fall.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the origins of an empire.
It actually took a shockingly long time for Assyria to become this massive superpower. The city-state of Ashur, named for a warlike god, naturally, was founded nearly 2,000 years before the empire's peak. Through the Akkadian era, they viewed guys like Sargon of Akkad as their direct ancestors. During the Old Empire, they were mostly merchants, building highly lucrative trade routes all the way into Anatolia. But it really wasn't until an Amorite warlord named Shamshi-Adad swept in and established political unity that they finally forged a strong, early national identity. Now, look at this number. 14,400. During one major victory, King Shalmaneser blinded 14,400 prisoners of war in one eye. Just let that sink in. But, and this is absolutely crucial to understand them, it wasn't just mindless cruelty. It was a brutally calculated strategy. He did this to prevent rebellion, and then he resettled these partially blinded people in unfamiliar territory. He was literally moving skilled labor exactly where his growing empire needed it most.
As they expanded, the leadership grew, well, a lot more extreme. Take King Tukulti-Norta, a gifted but completely ruthless strategist. He actually captured the rival city of Babylon, totally demolished its walls, and, in an act of massive, unthinkable sacrilege, relocated the statue of their chief god, Marduk. When they revolted, he massacred the population. And while all of Mesopotamia watched in absolute shock, what did he do? He confidently wrote an epic poem about himself. But karma caught up to him. He was eventually besieged in his own newly built capital and murdered by his own sons, backed by the local priesthood. Talk about family drama.
Moving right along to Section 2, Surviving the Bronze Age.
You're probably familiar with the Bronze Age collapse, that total dark age where great cities were abandoned and international trade just completely vanished thanks to waves of invading marauders. Babylon, conquered and reduced to a third-rate power. But Assyria? They actually capitalized on the collapse. They used this chaos to heavily militarize their society, making military service compulsory for all adult citizen males. And, this is the real game changer here, they started introducing iron weapons into their ranks, giving them a massive technological edge over everyone else.
Which brings us to Section 3, where we look at the inner workings of the Assyrian war machine.
Now, there's a really fascinating paradox right at the heart of their civilization. Later kings, like Adad-Niri II, literally made it a sacred religious duty to wage yearly war. They built massive fortified supply depots and incredible road networks just to move armies faster. But then, amidst all this perpetual warfare, King Ashur-bel-Kala went and built the world's very first known public botanical gardens and zoo. They were out there breeding rare animals, housing primates and crocodiles gifted by Egypt. So yes, they were ruthless conquerors, but they were also incredibly sophisticated builders and preservers of knowledge. It's a wild contrast.
Okay, let's head into Section 4, looking at the major reforms and massive expansion of the empire.
After a period of stagnation, which, by the way, included a brief reign by Sammu-Rammat, the only female regent in Assyrian history, along comes King Tiglath-Pileser III. And this guy completely reinvents ancient statecraft. First, he sees the empire as too top-heavy, so he fractures the administration into over 80 smaller provinces. Next, to stop dynasties from rebelling, he appoints eunuchs as governors. Why? No descendants means their sole loyalty is to the crown. Brilliant! Then, he realizes he needs more manpower. So he creates the first true professional standing army, fully integrating cavalry and siege engines. But his absolute masterstroke? He allowed anyone in the empire to join the army and actually become Assyrian as long as they adopted the culture and worshipped the god Ashur. This just completely swelled their ranks for year-round endless war.
And that sets up Section 5 perfectly, the absolute peak of their power.
Those reforms set the stage for a century filled with exceptional and exceptionally ruthless kings. We're talking Sargon II, Sennacherib, Esarhaddon, and Ashurbanipal. These rulers pushed the empire's borders out to their absolute geographical limits. They systematically dismantled rival states, expanding from the Persian Gulf all the way into Egypt. For a while there, Assyria was the undisputed, unmatched master of the known world.
But nothing lasts forever, right? Section 6. A sudden, fiery fall.
Here's the fatal flaw in their master plan. That extreme expansion, combined with a very well-deserved reputation for brutality, created countless desperate enemies. They simply stretched their military resources way too thin across a massive geography. And eventually, their heavily taxed, brutalized subjects figured out how to unite. First, Egypt broke away. Then, a coalition of Babylonians and the Medes from the east launched a surprise attack directly at the Assyrian heartland. They totally bypassed the border defenses, went straight for the capital, and burned Nineveh, which, remember, was the greatest city in the world at the time, straight to the ground.
And the craziest part is the speed of this collapse. 3 years. That's it. In just 36 months, an empire that seemed completely invincible, at the absolute height of its global power, succumbed to the vengeance of its subjects. Hundreds of years of continuous, terrifying imperial dominance were just wiped off the political map almost overnight.
The political state, the administration, the war machine, all of it, completely destroyed. But here is the ultimate takeaway for this explainer. The people themselves were not erased. Despite the total political annihilation of their empire, the Assyrian people outlived the ashes of Nineveh. They maintained their distinct cultural identity and actually survived to this very day. It leaves us with a really profound question, doesn't it? When the massive walls fall and the powerful kings are long gone, what truly makes a civilization endure? Something to think about. Thanks so much